Welcome. Thank you for braving the weather to come out on this crazy day. This is the 60th anniversary of Peace Action this year. We were founded in 1957 as the Committee for a Sane Nuclear Policy, and we are still at it. And I have to tell you, what a time we're living in. For the progressives and peace activists of my generation, we thought all our lives that we were moving forward. Maybe not very fast, maybe not as fast as we needed to move, but we thought the trend was positive. But this year we learned different. And it's been a sobering wake-up call for most of us, and a lot of us are, and we as a movement, I think, are still rethinking what we've learned from how fragile those gains are, how we can take nothing for granted. I'm Cole Harrison, Executive Director of Mass Peace Action. In his first 11 weeks in office, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have launched attacks on every front. They've appointed a reactionary cabinet stocked with generals and billionaires. A good old boy from Alabama is the Attorney General. The Secretary of State a year ago was running ExxonMobil. The Secretary of Education doesn't believe in public education. The Administrator of the EPA doesn't believe in global warming, doesn't believe global warming is real. We are organizing people to resist. Trump has escalated roundups of immigrants and retaliation against immigrant leaders. He's tried twice to ban people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. Now 6, they scaled it down from 7 to 6. 5 of those countries, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, and Iraq, are places where the United States has waged war for the last 15 years. And a 6th country, Iran, has been the target of a campaign of unremitting hostility on a bipartisan basis from the U.S. government. 20 million people in Yemen, Somalia, South Sudan, and Kenya are facing starvation as the U.S. plans to escalate its support for the Saudi war in Yemen, and as it has openly deployed ground troops in Syria. Our Middle East Working Group is launching today an End War Without End campaign with a petition drive, a community leaders letter, and in support of legislation by Barbara Lee to require a congressional authorization for use of military force before the U.S. can take military action. And that campaign will tries to stop these endless wars that are fueling the world's largest refugee crisis since World War II. Donald Trump has approved the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines, and he's canceled the Clean Power Plan. The peace movement will join the People's Climate Mobilization in Washington on April 29th, and there will also be a rally in Boston that day. That's just 4 weeks from today. It'll be a rally on Boston Common, followed by workshops in SEIU 32BJ, which is right near the Boston Common, in the afternoon. How many of you will be there in Washington? And how many will be at the rally in Boston? Great. Looks like we'll have a good peace contingent that day. Trump has proposed a budget which we call the Trump-Ryan death budget because it will kill people. Our military will increase its killing, and our domestic Trump wants a $54 billion increase in our already bloated military budget, and he wants to accelerate the buildup in the nuclear weapons that was started by President Obama. Trump plans to cut health care, housing, education, scientific research funding, among many other areas, to pay for it. But there is a progressive alternative, the people's budget. The people's budget will cut the military, not increase it, impose a carbon tax rather than increase carbon pollution. It will build infrastructure and support housing, health care, education, and more. But not enough people know about the people's budget, and we are organizing pressure on our representatives to vote for it. As part of a national call, we're organizing with others a Tax Day rally on April 15th, 2 weeks from today, 1 p.m. on Cambridge Common, to lift up the people's budget and denounce the Trump death budget, and also to call for Trump to release his tax returns. How many can come on April 15th? We're holding the rally in Cambridge because Boston is busy that day with commemorations of the Boston Marathon bombing, so we're on Cambridge Common. Paul Shannon, my co-conspirator on this project, told me to lift up the leaflet at this point, but I haven't got it in front of me. But there's a big pile of leaflets at the registration table for the Tax Day mobilization. Please take not one, but 10 or 20 and pass them out. The Trump administration has spoken up in favor of Israeli settlements, which are destroying, many say have already destroyed, the possibility of a two-state solution in Israel-Palestine. In Massachusetts, Israel First groups have filed a bill in the state legislature to strike at the right to boycott, saying that nonviolent economic protest of Israeli policies of occupation is actually discrimination on the basis of national origin. And our Palestine-Israel Working Group is joining together with Jewish Voice for Peace and with the Mass Alliance for Water Justice in Palestine to oppose this terrible bill. Mass Peace Action is a volunteer-driven organization. Our volunteer-led working groups are the heart and soul of our organization. To a greater degree than ever before, our working groups plan today's conference. Each workshop today that we'll hold after we break from our plenary session was planned and will be led by one of our working groups. I urge you to attend a workshop of your choice, participate, hear the ideas, bring your own ideas, and join in the work. We have a new racial justice working group this year, which held its first event, a youth-written play on the racial achievement gap, which was performed the week, I guess about 10 days ago in Roxbury, and was attended by over 100 people and followed by a discussion. Our Boston Downwinders group is campaigning to close Pilgrim Nuclear as soon as possible and to make sure that all nuclear plants are retired and that the huge footprint of nuclear waste is cared for as humanly safely as possible. Trump's finger is on the nuclear button, and many people are becoming alarmed at the threat of nuclear war that is growing daily more urgent. The U.S. and other nuclear powers boycotted last week's conference at the UN, which has begun to negotiate a new treaty to ban possession and use of nuclear weapons. Mass Peace Action is reaching out to social justice movements with campaigns for subways, not submarines, schools, not bombs, housing, not H-bombs, to bring about an alliance between peace and social justice and stop the nuclear modernization or nuclear escalation program. The Bernie Sanders campaign marked a huge turning point in U.S. politics last year, and we are working to help build Our Revolution, the successor organization which is grouping progressives in Massachusetts and nationwide for political action. How many of you were at the rally last night at the Orpheum? Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren won a standing ovation after ovation. I think they say it was 3,000 people there, as they promised to lead not only the resistance to the Trump agenda, but a forward-looking movement for Medicare for all, free college for all, a nationwide $15 minimum wage, for Black Lives Matter, for immigration rights, and against economic inequality. But important as their leadership is, they forgot to mention one thing, one issue. Does anyone here know what it was that they forgot to mention? They forgot to mention foreign policy. They forgot to mention militarism. They forgot to mention U.S. wars. What about U.S. empire? The leadership of the U.S. progressive movement too often forgets to emphasize the international dimension of our movement and of the problems we face. Why is this? Why is this? It's because the peace movement is not out in the street in numbers. That's why. Numbers drive politics. Turnout drives politics. Voters drive politics. If we want to hear Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talk about peace, and we do, we have to show that millions and tens of millions of people are voting on peace. I'm pleased to report, though, that Our Revolution Massachusetts has included a strong anti-militarist plank which raises the cost of nuclear modernization, and in its platform planks that ORMA activists will raise at the upcoming Democratic platform hearings and at the Democratic State Convention in Lowell on June 3rd. And I was told yesterday that Progressive Massachusetts, another grassroots progressive group, has endorsed the same platform language, including that foreign policy plank. I shouldn't call it a foreign policy plank, it's an anti-militarist plank framed around the federal budget issue of the trade-off between military spending and domestic spending and nuclear weapons spending. So do we need a strong peace action? Yes, we do, because nobody but the peace movement is going to raise these issues. But we don't need a peace movement silo. We're going to build a powerful peace movement that links the struggle against militarism, against war, against nuclear disaster, with the struggle for social and economic justice, for racial justice, for climate justice. Thank you for coming out today in this awful weather to do the hard work that needs to be done.